that has lower marginal rates, a broader base, fewer carve-outs and special exemptions for the politically connected. We need to have regulatory reform where law is actually made in the legislature, not in the executive branch. The tragic line from President Obama a couple of years ago when he said, "It doesn't really matter all that much to me whether or not the legislature passes the laws I want them to pass, because I've got a pen, I've got a phone, and I can just make up law by rule and regulation." Well, actually, the whole purpose of the American system of government, having three separate but equal branches that check and balance one another, was because we're skeptical of the consolidation of power, and we're particularly skeptical of the consolidation of power in a small group like a unitary executive that can move on his own without a lot of encumbrance and constraint on that process. But fundamentally, we list Article 1, Article 2, Article 3. They're separate but equal. I believe they're equal branches. But we list Article 1, the Congress and the legislature, then Article 2, the executive, then Article 3, the legislature, for a reason. And it's because we're going from more democratically accountable to less democratically accountable. People in the Congress, 535 of us, 435 only have a 2-year term. The House of Representatives, you all get to fire those people every 24 months. You move to the next branch, the executive, the president only has one re-election moment. There's one referendum on a president. And then you get, and his job is supposed to be faithfully executing the laws that are duly passed by this legislature. Then you get to the judiciary, they have lifetime appointments. None of their job is to be a super legislator. None of their job is to exercise empathy. It is to apply facts to the law and the law to the facts. It's my job to exercise empathy because you can fire me. You can't fire Ruth Bader Ginsburg. And so fundamentally, we shouldn't have super legislators, so we need to do regulatory reform.
Why haven't Republicans gotten serious about taking on cronyism, either through the tax code or through subsidies to favor special interests?
Because we don't elect the right kind of people. We elect people who think Washington is the center of life. And if you think Washington is the center of life, you're not only not a good political leader in America, you're not a good American. Because America is not about politics. America is much more like country music lyrics than it's like the Federal Register. America is not chiefly about compulsory powers. America is about persuasion. When you think about Alexis de Tocqueville coming to America in the 1830s, trying to define for Europeans, if you own Democracy in America, it's a 15-page book, rip the binding off of it and tear it into 5-page chunks and just spread it all over your house. Put a chunk on a bathtub, put some on the coffee table, put some in your kitchen. This is the way you have to understand the book, because it was written as travel reports from America. So we think of ourselves as the Declaration of Independence was in 1776, and the Constitutional Convention is in 1787, 88. Europeans don't ever really think of America as being truly independent until the War of 1812. Long story about why. But the War of 1812 is what really makes Americans independent in the eyes of Europeans. And they think of us as religious zealots fighting about the nature of heaven and hell. There's a lot of cultural pluralism here. They understood that we believe that. But by the 1830s, there's all this economic dynamism in America, right? There's a canal revolution, there's a transportation revolution, there's the proto-railroad revolution. Why is America so dynamic? Europeans can't figure it out. They thought we were crazy people living on the far frontiers of the earth. And all of a sudden, there's all this economic dynamism. They wanted to know why. And so Tocqueville raised his hand. He said, I'll volunteer. I'll go and I'll send back travel reports. And since America's dynamic, they must have the greatest bureaucrats. They must have the best central planners. That's what Tocqueville believed, right? So he goes to Washington, D.C. This is the beginning of his travel report. And he gets to Washington, D.C. and he says, this is weird. This is a swamp with a lot of people that aren't that impressive, and they don't work very hard. Not a lot has changed. And he says, I haven't found the center of America. It isn't Washington. I gotta figure it out. And so there were 25 states at that point. Tocqueville travels to 17 of the 25. And he writes back to Europe and he says, I have found the meaning of America. It is the Rotary Club. The meaning of America is the place, the center of America is the place where you persuade people to join your church or to buy your new product, or you persuade them to marry you, or to join your voluntary association, or to build a new school. America is about persuasion.